Kim. How are you? So I am your mentor for the 11-Second Club. I'm Brett Parker, and I live here in Emeryville. Actually, I live in San Francisco, and I work in Emeryville. I work at Pixar. I've been there about 12 years, and I've been at Animation Mentor like 3 or something. I'm not sure. A while, on and off, or I think 3 years. So that's a little bit about me. I think that, let's take a look at your shot. I think it's looking great. I think that you've really set up her character really nicely. I think you're really consistent with her, especially in the second shot. I think you really hit your groove with her, and it's really nicely animated. You have lots of, you keep her really nervous and mousy, and I think that the way you've acted her out is really, you've done a really great job. Probably my biggest notes are around him. I'll be looking at both. Looking a little more at his physics, actually. I think that you can push the physics a little bit more for him, especially, again, in the second shot. Okay, so taking a look at this first shot, I'm going to look at her first. Just starting off here, there's one note, and I'm not sure if this is because of the way it was rendered, but I have the frames sometimes jump ahead on 2s, and sometimes they're on 1s. And at times, I feel like I'm calling a lot of pops, but it looks to me like when the frames are jumping ahead on 2s. So I'm going to go ahead and call those out just in case, and it may be that there was something odd about the way this loaded up, or it's because of the render, or I'm not quite sure. So I'm sorry if they're not actually there, but if they are there, then these are things to take a look at. Because like, for example, this jumps from frame 2 to 4. And I feel like here she's sort of starting all at once. And I know that she feels lost because, she's moving kind of as a whole. For that first frame, I don't feel that she's not leading with the head or letting the hips stay behind a little bit and letting the whole upper body go a little bit more. And then let the hips kind of come up. It feels like she's kind of moving all at once there. So go ahead and in that first frame, also go see how that hand stays locked with her as she moves up. Go ahead and let that hand sort of anticipate down. So that's going to be the anticipation into her move. And it's also going to nicely sort of separate her body moving up and the hand moving down. You could even get a little more, see that's popping there too. The hand is popping, but it's jumping 2 frames. You could get a little more overlap forward, I think, with the wrist, as it starts to come up. So it's, excuse me, so it's that little bit of delay. So on that first frame, instead of the hand staying stiff and this being locked and moving forward, you can actually get the wrist breaking a little bit and then moving up. So also look at the path of action of that hand. So I think you can go a little broader with that hand, this hand here. The wrist is popping. Let me go ahead and clear that mark. But that wrist sort of pops up right there. And then this sort of locks. And then only the finger is overlapping, so it's a little bit too much overlap on the finger. You don't want to tone down necessarily the finger overlap, but you want to move the wrist a little bit more with it, right? So that the finger is staying here, but the hand has moved, and even the wrist has moved a little bit, so that has moved out. So you're getting, I'm going off camera, excuse me, but not excuse me, and then the wrist locks, and it's all happening in the finger. And this is real picky stuff, but, just really try to pay attention to the path of action. I think you can overall get sort of a little bit nicer arc with that, make it a little broader and a little bit more of an arc. also, the other big thing for her, I'll just play this beginning.
I was looking for some help.
So I was looking for some, see how her head is staying totally still until the very end here? But she's doing a lot of talking, but the head is sort of really kind of staying just like this, and it's like this mouth is moving on top of her head. But I think, honestly, I was looking for some, see what secondary action. You have it really nice and clear, just layering on a little bit more in that head. A little, maybe a little, some nice little, I was looking for some help. And then that can lead into it, maybe a little lean forward or even on top of that as well. But definitely a little secondary action in the head so that it doesn't feel so still, and then into that big move there. Okay, my biggest note with him, actually one thing right away, is go ahead and you want to lower these lids. There's too much white around the eye, and he's looking down, and that's going to help that expression a lot. I make this gesture in the beginning a little bit more specific. It feels like the sort of generic head nod, and I think you can really, maybe he's working on something. I think a little head twist in there, maybe a little lowering of the brow or a little eye dart in there as he's working would be great also. Then, as he says, I would delay this. One of the things that was happening for me, I would delay this look until after, because I don't look at him, I'm focused on her. And I think you actually have the time. So wait until up here, about frame 42, then let him go into the look. Then take out this move here. If you come up, you do the look, and let him go directly into moving in this direction. So, right? So, if I frame back, let me just make sure. Yeah, you only have 4 frames. So, I might have to take that back. Let me play this one more time.
I was looking for some help. I was looking for some help.
Well, the thing is, actually, you can add on to the end of this shot a little bit. We don't have the dialogue. Okay.
Some help. You see, I've been...
Oh, you have that little gap. Here's what I'm thinking. I think it would be great if you could move the look a little bit later, and then no matter what, don't go back into this big move to the right. Let him just, because then he's turning away in the same direction. He's actually starting to turn away from the car, stage left. So it's disconcerting because you have him starting to move screen right here, but he's turning away from the car, stage left. So this is where I think you can buy your time. Is basically I want him to stay in this look, right? So he looks, and then he just says, huh. And I would also not necessarily, you have the stick he's using to carjack with, pops up. Go ahead and it doesn't have to pop up. It's very distracting because I don't know what it is, and I actually can't. I don't have enough time in this shot to really see what it is. So I would go ahead and leave that drop. Cut this move to the right and just have him start moving screen space left, turning. Basically what the action is that you started here, right? You can start that in the first shot, and then you can overlap it a little bit in this shot. That's totally fine. Watch the spacing as he's coming across. I'm going to focus on him first in this shot. So he's coming across here. This is where we get into the physics. So he's opening up. See the spacing there? So he's coming around, but the head is a little locked in space on this frame. And then he pushes forward, and then he pops right here between the frames. See that big pop? Yeah. The nose is here, and then it's here. So that's a really big pop there. And I think you can just get a little bit more of a real arc down and around and then over. And then instead of, once again, here he hits right and then bounces back left. So get a nice settle and a little bit more. See how his hips are staying really square there? So you want to really feel that he's stepping back and out. So the hip is coming up here, and then he steps down on it. I need it straight before it's bent. I don't get a real sense that he steps out onto that leg and then shifted the weight onto it. So get it straight on the right leg before he bends it. And then as he starts to come around, I think you could actually add a couple frames into that and then overlap the head instead of bouncing right back. I think you can really overlap the head right here and neck and a little bit the body too, right? So he can settle back to where you have him, but it can take like 4 more frames, right? Because he's getting back there pretty quickly and it's popping. And so what you need is a combination of things. It's looking at the hips so they don't stay square across, but you get a real sense of that. The hips coming up, the leg moves out, it straightens, he steps on it. Is the hip starting to come down, the leg is bending, and then he's going into the settle. At the same time, those hips are moving a little bit up and down in space. They're not staying locked in the same square. He's really, he's moving, he's stepping down. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of up and down. But really look at the top of that in the head. So as he's stepping, you have a little bit, you can have a nice sort of move up here. He comes up a little bit. Now he comes down a little bit. Now he's moving over and back. So if I were drawing that whole path, right, it's like he's coming up, he's stepping down, he's overlapping to the right, and then he's coming into the settle. So that's sort of the overlap. If I was looking at the root or the head, that's kind of the overall shape I want. And right now it feels a little bit straight back and forth, as well as being able to, really push your overlap. So let's say looking at him, I think you could just push that head glance a little bit more because and it's because I wanted to really see it because it's great that it's all like a little nervous, but go ahead and push the head just a little bit more because our attention is a little bit on her. We want to be able to make sure we can catch those expressions on him. Go ahead and here again. I think you could have a little bit more anticipation into this head turn here. That's a pretty big turn right there. I think you could maybe start it. You start it here, but the hips are moving, but the body is locked, and then that's a lot of movement all on one frame 95. So start maybe, work into that anticipation into the step a little bit more, and really ease into that. Here again, also notice how that is staying really level. Keep having this switch for color I'm drawing with. Come here. Okay. That's staying really level on that turn, and instead I think you could get, a nice sort of arcing down into where he's looking. So anticipation up, little arc down, really trying to push those up. So he's, you're getting a nice lean forward. Now here, pause 2 frames at least before he goes into this take. Right now, you need to separate those actions a little bit because it's like look, take instead of look, see, take. I'm missing the fact that he sees something because it's all happening on top of one another. So it can just be, actually it's probably like at least 3 frames. But let him really look and then do a nice take. And you can overlap that head down there so that the head is moving down first. Don't look at the flatness of how I've drawn that. It's just where it is forward in space, right? So that the neck and even the upper body can overlap forward a little bit as he's starting to move back on the take, right? So we're getting this sort of action. Then he comes up, so his body's still moving back. The body's moving back and up. Now the body's moving down. And then a settle. And that way also you're not, because you kind of have a little take free, but it's stiff. So that's where you want to overlap that. And then he's coming down out of that, and that can lead directly into the leap. So it's like, whoa, right? So that those moves can kind of work into each other and build a little bit more. Then watch the spacing on that leap too. If we're losing the physics of this a little bit too, see how that's pretty stiff. Once again, he's moving down, but everything is moving down uniformly. And then it stops, right? So there was this pop down, and then it was level, and then it pops up. But this, I feel like, is moving as a block. So really think about pushing the overlap together. Also on this leap, those moves down. So like here, once again, overlap that head a little bit there, head and neck. And actually, you know what, I'm so sorry, that one will be overlapping up. Because he's coming down, so let him keep coming down on this frame too, as he's turning. And the head has been overlapping back as he's moving down, right? So you're gonna be building some more arcs into this. So it's like, right, he's moving down, the head is moving up. Then the head moves down more here. You can overlap that down. Make sure that we really feel a push off of the right leg so that there's a lift. The left leg is coming over, that's popping forward. So on this frame, this is also jumping. But I would have that leg back a little bit more here, right? So that it's that back in space and then coming forward. And I needed at some point to be able to really feel the back leg a little more straight. Maybe he leaps up just a little bit higher. And then where's that back leg there, the right leg? So that that's more straight than the right leg is. The left leg is more round. And then he's landing. And so it's bent and his hips will come down more. Right, so what I'm trying to get is that the left leg is coming around more, a little more gradually, one more frame, so it's not popping. And the right leg is going from a bent to a straight and then coming and landing. I feel like I don't get a real sense of a real strong push off there. And then just really watching the overlap that's happening on top of that. On this move back, it's starting to get a little bit even, and so it feels a little bit tricky if we play that.
Nobody's been very nice to me.
Well,
so see how, I just think you could really look at your spacing so that he's moving back. Here we have a little more overlap with the head. See how the body is moving once this is staying really stiff. So let him, as he steps back, even it could almost be like a little bit of a sneak. Not a really full sneak, but it's like the head comes, overlaps forward a little bit, and then he's starting to overlap to the right, stays right there, and then the bottom leg moves back, but a little more overlap, a little more looseness in the upper body there as he comes back. And I would delay bringing the right arm back because right now you're bringing it back as the left leg is coming back, and you want to counter-animate that, right? The natural move as the left leg goes back is to keep your right leg forward. Your right arm forward. So make sure that you're stepping back into the left and delay bringing that right arm back and around. Here's where I think you could look at maybe pause and check the timing going into that. It felt like, again, you're merging the step and the little step a little bit. I mean, it can start to happen, but ease into it a little more and then maybe speed it up so that the spacing isn't even. What's happening with that head turn is that tilt and pop. But so if it's set up a little to the middle and then you have a little more ease out at the end. Watch this hand feel it lock for when you're letting go. It seems like you don't want it to freeze on the same frame. And then I thought that the cat for her was really nice. Then just watch. I'll come back to her, but right now while I'm here. Go ahead and have, see how it stays stiff there, and then so it moves down, and then it looks in. You can have a nice little bit of overlap at the bottom of that. You have a nice move at the top when she first catches it, but then it stays locked and she moves it in. So think of the arc that you can really make at the bottom of that move. So moving back to him, here's where also this was a really good pop. And his body and everything is all at once. So let the body drag and get, the head can move, but keep the body dragging behind him and following so it's not happening all at once. Dragging the head maybe a little more behind there. This is a real pop. I need another frame between here and here. Oops, sorry. Between this frame and this frame, I need another transition, especially in the body, because it goes from being pretty straight on to totally to the side. So I need one more frame in there. And then this one, I think you could push off further. Like maybe the arm is, and watch this arm too. See, the right leg is coming forward, so I think you can really get that arm like back here more, right? Which will also maybe create a nice sort of drag as he's going off. But really watch that spacing so it feels like he's feeding up into the move that's moving him off. Okay, and then let's go back and look at her through this. I really only had one note for her. I think she's looking great.
Very far and long tonight, and I'm afraid nobody's been very...
It's right in there. Nobody's been there. There's a pop there. The brows pop up and the head pops up. And then she locks a little bit. I think you, in general, have some really nice acting with her at this moment. And then I said the thing about the hand overlap. That was really
To me?
Welcome to New York.
Thank you. I was...
And I think that last shot is really cute. The one thing, watch the eyes. The eyelids are getting a little complicated. Just be careful, the shape. I think you could probably... I think they're very sweet, but this may be not even that much. And it could be a resolution thing, but it feels like there's these kind of points right here and here. And I just want to see if there's a way you can kind of soften that a little bit. Sorry. I like, especially the angle of this left one is really nice. And working with the brows and feeling that organic connection through the middle, the brow and the lids and everything really connecting. But just careful with the shape. I think that it just gets a little overly complicated. I think you could do a little more, a little starting, a little more arcing down here, like say frame 244, easing into it, 5, 6, 7. So you get a nice sort of, the head moving down. Before this up, you have it like only happening for one frame, and I think you see it, thank you. It's like a really nice anticipation into that. And then she freezes a little bit here at the end. I think that you could, thank you, let the body and the neck open up and the head open up a little bit more at the end. Just a little bit. Overall, I think you could watch your overlap and see where you can go a little bit further with that. The characters tend to be pretty minimal in their overlap. But I think it looks awesome. You did a great job. It's really looking good. Keep pushing it. And it was great to get a chance to give you a critique.